Welcome to today's exploration of philosophy's most unsettling wisdom. The title of our journey is The Shocking Cost of Goodness, Machiavelli's Dark Philosophy. Most of us grow up with the comforting belief that goodness is rewarded, that kindness attracts kindness, that honesty builds trust, and that compassion brings peace. Parents, teachers, and traditions insist that being good is not only morally right, but also practical in the long run. It is the narrative of fairy tales, religions, and cultural values. If you live with integrity, good things will eventually come to you. But Niccolo Machiavelli, the Renaissance thinker whose name still echoes with controversy, challenges this belief in the harshest way possible. He asks us, what if being good is not a guarantee of safety or respect? What if, instead, it carries a hidden cost, one that is often devastating? Machiavelli is often remembered for cold, ruthless advice in The Prince, but beneath his cynicism lies a profound and disturbing insight. Goodness, when left unchecked, is not always strength. Sometimes it is weakness. And in a world full of ambition, greed, and betrayal, the person who insists on being good in all circumstances may not rise, they may fall. This video is not about glorifying cruelty or teaching deception. Instead, it is about uncovering Machiavelli's hidden truth about human nature, that the moral rules we are taught to follow can sometimes betray us, and that real survival requires us to question when goodness serves us and when it destroys us. Let us begin. Part 1. The Fragile Illusion of Goodness. In The Prince, Machiavelli observes politics and human affairs with cold clarity. He notices something that few dare to admit. Those who rely too much on goodness often find themselves betrayed. The honest man is tricked by liars. The merciful ruler is overthrown by the ungrateful. The trusting friend is stabbed in the back by ambition. Why does this happen? Because goodness, as society defines it, rests on an illusion. It assumes that people are naturally fair, rational, and grateful. But Machiavelli argues the opposite. People are selfish, short-sighted, and often ungrateful. They respect strength more than kindness. They fear punishment more than they admire generosity. This creates a dangerous gap between moral theory and real life. In theory, kindness builds loyalty. In reality, kindness can invite exploitation. In theory, honesty builds trust. In reality, honesty can expose your weaknesses. In theory, compassion prevents conflict. In reality, compassion often encourages opportunists to take advantage. Machiavelli writes, "A man who strives after goodness in all his acts is sure to come to ruin. Since there are so many men who are not good." This is the fragile illusion of goodness, the comforting but false belief that morality alone protects us. In truth, morality without strength can be a mask for helplessness. Consider history. The leaders who placed virtue above pragmatism, those who refused to act harshly when harshness was needed, were often swept away by rivals who understood the brutal logic of power. Machiavelli admired strength not because he despised goodness, but because he saw how dangerous it was to cling to virtue when surrounded by wolves. This is the first shocking cost of goodness. It blinds us to reality. It makes us believe that the world rewards virtue fairly, when in fact the world often rewards cunning, discipline, and decisiveness instead. Part 2. When goodness becomes a weakness. The second cost of goodness is even more disturbing. According to Machiavelli, goodness does not just blind you, it actively weakens you. Imagine a ruler who shows mercy to every enemy, hoping this mercy will be repaid with loyalty. Instead, the enemy see softness. They see hesitation. And in a world ruled by ambition, hesitation is fatal. Mercy without balance becomes an open invitation to rebellion. Machiavelli argues that while cruelty should not be celebrated, it can sometimes be more effective than unchecked kindness. A ruler who punishes swiftly may be feared, but he is also respected. A ruler who forgives endlessly may be loved for a time, but his power crumbles as others exploit his leniency. Now take this beyond rulers and politics. Think about your personal life. The employee who always says yes to extra work is soon taken for granted. The friend who always forgives is eventually disrespected. The partner who gives endlessly without boundaries is often left drained, while the other takes more and more. Goodness, when practiced without wisdom, is not a shield, it is a weakness. It makes others assume you will never resist, never retaliate, never protect yourself, and once people believe this, they stop respecting you. Machiavelli does not say that one must be cruel at all times. He simply insists that goodness cannot be absolute. To survive, one must learn balance, the ability to act kindly when it serves you, but also the strength to be harsh when necessity demands it. This is why he writes, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." Not because love is worthless, but because love without strength turns into exploitation. Fear, on the other hand, ensures boundaries. Here lies the true shock of Machiavelli's dark philosophy. Goodness is not always a virtue. Sometimes it is a trap. Sometimes it is the very weakness that ensures your downfall. Part 3. The betrayal of gratitude. One of the most unsettling truths Machiavelli reveals is that gratitude is unreliable. We want to believe that if we help others, they will return the favor, that if we show loyalty, it will be rewarded with loyalty, that if we sacrifice for the good of others, they will one day sacrifice for us. But Machiavelli strips away this comforting illusion. He writes that people are quick to forget favors but never forget injuries. Acts of kindness create a debt, but debts are uncomfortable. To feel indebted often breeds resentment rather than loyalty. People convince themselves that they owe you nothing, or worse, that you owed them in the first place. Consider the fate of generous leaders in history. Many rulers who lifted their people out of poverty or granted them freedoms were later betrayed by the very same crowds they had helped. Why? Because gratitude fades, but ambition and envy remain. The people who benefited from mercy often grow restless and desire more. And once their desires are not met, they turn on the hand that fed them. Think also about personal relationships. How many times have you seen someone dedicate years to supporting another person, whether in love, friendship, or work, only to be abandoned or betrayed the moment their usefulness ends? This is not an exception to human nature, Machiavelli warns. It is the rule. Goodness, when rooted in the hope of eternal gratitude, carries a devastating cost. It builds expectations on a fragile foundation. Gratitude is fleeting. Ambition is permanent. And the one who builds their life on gratitude alone will one day discover the betrayal of their hopes. Part 4. The cruelty of necessity. Another shocking cost of goodness lies in the principle Machiavelli calls necessita, the necessity of action. In politics, in survival, in life itself, there are moments when goodness is a luxury no one can afford. Imagine a ruler facing rebellion. To forgive the rebels might seem noble, but in practice it invites chaos. Mercy becomes cruelty to the innocent, because the unrest grows and destroys peace for everyone. In this case, punishment, though harsh, is necessary to preserve stability. This is one of Machiavelli's most terrifying insights, that sometimes cruelty is not the opposite of kindness, it is the hidden form of it. To allow disorder to spread through weakness is, in the end, more destructive than one decisive act of severity. He illustrates this with examples from history. Cesare Borgia, though ruthless, was respected because his harsh actions created order. By contrast, rulers who delayed punishment out of excessive goodness allowed corruption and rebellion to thrive, causing greater suffering for the people they wished to protect. Here lies the dark paradox. Sometimes true mercy comes disguised as cruelty, and sometimes excessive goodness leads directly to greater harm. In our personal lives, the same principle applies. Imagine a parent who never disciplines their child because they want to be endlessly kind. At first, this feels like love, but over time, it creates chaos, entitlement, and unhappiness. Discipline, though difficult, is an act of necessary severity that leads to order and growth. Machiavelli forces us to confront this cruel truth. When the situation demands strength, goodness becomes irresponsibility. And when necessity demands harshness, failing to act is not mercy, it is negligence. Part 5. The Mask of Goodness. The fifth cost of goodness, according to Machiavelli, is perhaps the most ironic. He argues that even if a leader wishes to survive, it is not enough to be good. It is often more important to appear good. Human beings, he notes, judge by appearances more than by truth. The masses rarely see into the inner workings of power. They do not witness the difficult choices, the compromises, or the harsh realities. They see only the surface. And for this reason, Machiavelli insists that a leader must wear the mask of goodness, even when he cannot afford to practice it fully. He writes, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few really know what you are." This means that reputation often matters more than reality. A leader may act harshly in secret, but as long as he appears merciful, generous, and just in public, the people will admire him. On the other hand, a leader who is truly good in action but fails to project that image may still lose the support of the people. This is the cruel irony of goodness. It is not always about what you are, but what others believe you are. Appearances protect power more than actions do. Think of modern life. How many public figures, celebrities, or leaders carefully construct an image of kindness and generosity, while behind the scenes their actions are far more ruthless? Yet people love them, because appearances are easier to consume than reality. Machiavelli's insight is not that one should abandon morality completely, but that to survive in a world of judgment, one must master both reality and appearance. To be good when possible, but to always appear good, even when necessity demands something harsher. Thus, the shocking cost of goodness is revealed once more. Being truly good is not enough. Without the mask of goodness, your reality may never be recognized. Part 6. The Double-Edged Sword of Morality. One of Machiavelli's darkest observations is that morality itself can become a weapon. When you try to live according to strict goodness, you believe morality protects you, but in reality, others can turn it against you. Consider how often people use moral expectations as tools of control. A rival accuses a ruler of cruelty, not out of concern for justice, but to weaken their legitimacy. A colleague praises kindness while secretly exploiting those who try to live by it. Even in personal life, people guilt others into submission by weaponizing the language of morality. "If you were really a good person, you would do this for me." Machiavelli warns that morality in the wrong hands is not a shield, it is a trap. To cling blindly to ideals makes you predictable, and predictability makes you easy to manipulate. Those who know you will always choose kindness, can push you into decisions that serve them, not you. This does not mean that morality has no value. Machiavelli does not reject virtue entirely. He simply insists that morality must be used wisely, not worshipped blindly. It is a tool, not a master. It is effective when balanced with strength, but destructive when it blinds you to necessity. Here lies the sixth shocking cost of goodness. By committing to moral purity without flexibility, you surrender your power. You become an instrument for others, rather than the author of your own fate. Part 7. The Burden of the Good Man. Perhaps the most tragic cost of goodness is what it does to the person who carries it. The good man in Machiavelli's world is not only vulnerable To betrayal and weakness, he is also condemned to a life of inner conflict. He suffers because he expects the world to reflect his values, and when it does not, he feels broken. His morality becomes his burden. The man who always forgives, always sacrifices, always yields, soon discovers that his sacrifices are endless, while the rewards are scarce. He becomes tired, disillusioned, even bitter. His goodness, instead of being a source of pride, turns into a chain that holds him down. Machiavelli reminds us that the world is not designed to reward purity. Those who expect fairness suffer the most, because they are repeatedly shocked when fairness does not appear. Meanwhile, those who understand the harshness of human nature are less wounded, because they expect betrayal and prepare for it. This does not mean we must abandon goodness entirely, but it means that goodness without wisdom is not virtue, it is tragedy. The burden of the good man is that he cannot accept the world as it truly is, and so he is crushed by its weight. Ending. The dark wisdom of Machiavelli. And so we return to the question, what is the shocking cost of goodness? For Machiavelli, the cost is many things. It is blindness in a world that demands clarity. It is weakness in a world that rewards strength. It is betrayal because gratitude fades. It is cruelty because unchecked mercy creates chaos. It is illusion because appearance often matters more than reality. It is manipulation because morality can be turned into a weapon. And it is tragedy because the truly good man is often broken by the very world he tries to heal. But Machiavelli does not tell us to become monsters. His message is not that cruelty should replace kindness, but that goodness must be guided by wisdom. Virtue must be balanced with strength. Mercy must be tempered by necessity, and appearances must be managed as carefully as reality itself. In the end, Machiavelli offers us not hopelessness, but clarity. He shows us that the world is harsh, yes, but also that survival is possible for those who see clearly, act decisively, and understand when to use goodness and when to guard against it. So the next time you are praised for being too good, ask yourself, is my goodness protecting me, or is it costing me more than I can afford? That is Machiavelli's hidden truth, and it may be the most shocking one of all.